Hi everybody, welcome to my cooking class. My name is Jessica Jarmer and I'm here today to talk to you about sweets for your sweetheart. This class will talk to you about plant-based foods that don't have any processed foods in them, no added sugars, and no added oils. Well, no added refined sugars. We are going to use some sweet things. So we're going to get started today with a chocolate mousse. But you know what, before I do that, let me tell you something. I have been following this diet, this type of diet, for, I'm going to be dating myself on this, but I'm going to say it anyway, 25 years. So 25 years of plant-based. I'm so happy that it's become more mainstream. So hopefully you enjoy what you see today. A lot of what we're seeing or what we're making today is based off of recipes that I've learned, and I've incorporated them with some forks over knives recipes. So if you're not familiar with that movie, it really introduces you to plant-based cooking. So definitely check it out. We're going to be starting today with chocolate mousse, and the base of that chocolate mousse is not what you think. It's acorn squash. So I cooked 3 acorn squash. What I did was I cut them in half, and I baked them face down. You could steam them too. I didn't even take out the seeds though, because I just didn't feel like doing that, because it's going to be so much easier now that it's baked to take it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have my little bucket here for my scraps. I am going to take my soft, see, nice and soft now. Hi, how are you guys? Come on in. Good. So we're starting out, so we have some people joining us today. We're starting out by making chocolate mousse. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know, okay? Are you guys vegetarian?
I was a vegan in the past. I kind of get into healthier eating. So
Okay, cool.
That way.
Nice.
I'm sure this individual is as well. Is a mask required in here or not?
It's totally up to you.
Lovely.
We're far enough apart. We're gonna do whatever you want.
Thank God.
Yeah, I'm over. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're scraping out the insides of this already cooked acorn squash. So this is the base of our chocolate mousse. Bear with me, I swear this works.
I love this.
I know, right? And we're gonna dig all the seeds out. And like I said, I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure there's some reason why people do it on the front end, but I find it just comes right out after you bake them versus scraping and scraping and scraping. Here's just a little scoop and it comes out. Okay. The hardest part about the acorn squash, or any squash at all, is cutting it, correct? You can, like, if you're not careful and you don't have a good knife, you can lose a finger, so just be careful. Okay, here we go. One more. There we go. Now, I'm gonna take the cooked squash and put it into the food processor. You just missed it. I just told the video here that I have been plant-based for 25 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exclusively or?
Yes, exclusively.
Wow.
25 years. Yeah. I went back to school to learn, to get some certifications in it, so I wasn't just the crazy person at the table,
Right.
you know, that no one knew what to do with, you know.
Right.
Because everybody thought I was nuts when I first started doing this.
Does anybody know what to do with you now? Or?
No, nobody still knows what to do with me. We have Thanksgiving at our house now every year. I do, for my family, I make a turkey, but I don't make it at my house. I make it somewhere else. And the first year I did it, every one of my family members called separately to offer to bring the turkey, because they didn't believe that I was really going to have a turkey for them, but I did. But all the rest of it is completely plant-based. I even make vegan versions of traditional pies so that my kids can eat them. We're getting there, halfway through the squash. I swear this is the hardest part. Okay. 2 more.
What made you become vegan?
So, that's a very very good question. And I didn't even know the word vegan when I became vegan. So I didn't even know that was a word back in the day. I became vegan because I saw a friend's husband recover from cancer from transitioning his diet. And I thought that was pretty interesting that food was that powerful. Because back in the day, I only cared about well, he also lost a lot of weight doing it too. And I thought that was pretty impressive. So I thought, let me look into this. And he's still healthy and well today. Yeah. Yeah, and it was a pretty bad diagnosis. So it's just amazing. Hold on one second, I'm gonna step out of the film thing for a second and grab a paper towel. Okay, so we have all the squash in there, and now I gotta see the next thing, which I put this, see I have glasses on my head, but I'm not gonna take them out. Okay, so now we have a half a cup of cocoa powder. This is not Dutch processed, it's just plain old cocoa powder. Dutch processed has like an alkalizing agent added to it, so it's less bitter. You put a half a cup in, and then what are we putting in? Oh, a cup of date paste. I should talk about date paste. It's a great sweetener. This is just dates and water, and all we did was soak a pound of dates in a cup of water, and then about an hour later blend it. I use hot water because I feel it gets in there better. So you do about a cup. We're just gonna wing this. You can put this in your oatmeal in the morning. It's really yummy. So it has like a brown sugar taste to it. It's very delicious. Okay, we got that in, and now we're gonna put in tahini. Here it is. Let me just go pour it. About 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of that. And some vanilla, if I can find it. There it is. Okay, good. And we're gonna do about a tablespoon. We're not baking this, so it's just kind of adjust the flavors. It's gonna get loud. Or maybe it's not. And you just keep blending this till it comes together. Every once in a while, scrape down the sides. So, and keep going. So my entire house is not plant-based. We have a lot of people who do whatever they want when they're out of the house that I don't know about. But most of the time, all the time in the house, we are 100% plant-based. And this just goes on like this for a bit, and you get pudding-looking thing, mousse.
It already looks so good.
It's delicious.
The spoon at the bottom is the best part.
And I'm gonna ask my friend here to take this and put it in a container and rinse this out for me, because we're gonna swap out. I'm gonna need that back. Okay, so once that's all done,
Want to put it in a metal container?
what are we putting in?
In the baking?
You know what? Yeah, you can put it in.
In that.
What?
A bacon pan.
No, I need the pan.
What is this for?
That's not brownie. That's mousse. You're not listening. When you bring an assistant and they don't listen, it's good. They don't even know what you're making. It's good. Okay, so now we have. We're gonna make a cashew cream to go with this. I know it's funny. We normally have a room full of people, but we're talking to this now for people. It's so funny. All right, so on top of that, I would put a cashew cream sauce. We use cashews as the base of everything dairy based in our house. So we'll make our cheeses out of cashew. We'll make our sour cream out of cashew. Our mayonnaise is cashews.
I have a question.
Yes.
All of these products here, is that feasible for? Can every home have these things on hand?
Yeah. So let me show you. An egg. So, are you talking appliances or products?
I mean the products.
Okay,
the
so
date paste and all that, those kind of
date
things.
paste is simply buying dates, right?
Okay.
like you're watching TV one day, you're like, you know what, let me soak some dates. So while you're watching TV, do it and you have it for the week, right? It's like getting up and thinking to do it. That's the only thing. That it does involve a little extra planning.
Okay.
It's not like you can come home and take that chicken breast and throw it on. It does take a little extra thinking. So I always have cashews in my house. I always have nutritional yeast in my house. But when you're not buying things like meat and cheese and things like that are not bulking up your fridge, you can fill it with the veggies and you can fill it with all these other things that become staples in your house. So we're going to be doing this sauce, and it's pretty easy because most people have maple syrup in their house, right? So you just take your raw cashews and you pour some, about, you know, whatever you want with the maple syrup, a little vanilla, and most people have the vanilla in their house, right? About that much. And then whatever plant-based milk you have in your house.
Do you make your own cashew milk though?
I do have that thing that does it,
Okay.
but I don't do it that often because, and here's where, this is the most processed food I use.
Okay.
And the reason is, if you've ever tried to whip up homemade cashew milk to make it look frothy, it doesn't work. I'm not a coffee snob, but I definitely, hey guys, I definitely have, hi, come on in. We're recording it for live
Okay.
too. I'm definitely kind of I like my coffee a certain way.
Okay.
I have found that Oatly milk whips up like nobody's business. So I put it in a frother, and it's like my quiet in the morning. I will sit and have my coffee, and then I'll make another one to drive my daughter to school, right? And that's the most, but I do have almond cow. Have you ever seen that device? It was haunting me on Facebook so much I finally bought it. It's a device where you put the almonds or the cashews or whatever, you put some filtered water in, you put the lid on, hit the button, and you have milk. It's really easy. But I wasn't, how often do I use it? It's one of those things that's like, well, it's kind of like a novelty, I probably should use it more. My aunt just called me, and she told me that her doctor told her to stop almond milk immediately. It's so unhealthy. Yeah. So I was like, I know the doctor's heart is in the right place, but maybe the doctor should look into what real milk does to people.
Right.
So, yeah. All right. So now we have this, and we're gonna blend it. Oh, sorry. You got it over here. Give it one more. When I first got a Vitamix, there was no other device in my life that I would, like, if there was gonna be a fire in the house, I was grabbing the Vitamix, right? But then, I remember years ago, my dad got me a NutriBullet or a Magic Bullet, and I was laughing, and I said, I don't need that. I have, Vitamix. And then next thing you know, I use this thing 5 times a day, and my Vitamix is like, kinda, so you don't need to spend a ton of money on a good blender. You can get one of these, and they're fabulous. So, here's how this comes together. I'm gonna put this right here. And we have the pudding. You know what, let me put it on this. Now, does this taste like traditional mousse? It doesn't, but you're not getting the dairy, and some mousses use egg. We're not getting that either. We're getting traditional whole foods that your body knows what to do with. So there's nothing worse than feeling uncomfortable and disgusting at the end of a Valentine's Day dinner, right? You don't want to do that. You want to feel good about yourself, and this is the best way. So you put some on, or you can pipe it if you're so inclined, into a nice dish. I've done that before. And then where's my cashew cream? Right here. The longer you let this sit, the thicker it gets, which is nice. Same thing with sour cream. If you're making cashew sour cream, the longer it sits, the thicker it gets. And this goes on top. And then you put a little of, actually I won't do that one, this. Let me get our raspberries out. And hopefully I have a tongue right here. Put a nice raspberry on top. And you have chocolate mousse.
Nice.
You're all gonna get to try some after I make you all the brownies too. So we'll move into the brownies really quickly. So far so good? Any questions?
How long does the cashew cream last when do you store it?
You can store it for probably up to 5 days,
Oh, okay.
but it goes fast.
Cool.
It's really good.
Sounds
Like,
yummy.
you could put it on top of like pancakes. You can put it on top of cupcakes. I'm making brownies. You could put it on top of brownies.
Mhm.
Although today we're gonna make a sweet potato frosting to go on top.
You can put it on top of absolutely anything.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, you really could. It's so good. You can put it. I mean, it's just delicious. On top of strawberries, anything. We do sometimes in the morning. We'll do a parfait of sweet potatoes that we steam the night before or that morning. So sweet potatoes and then some fruit and then that sauce
Yeah.
and then some granola. And
Okay.
typically I buy that Engine 2 granola, if you've ever seen it, because it doesn't have any added oils.
Yeah.
It's
And I
good.
saw your date paste here also.
Yes, so the date paste is simply dates covered in like a pound of dates
Yeah.
without the pits, or with the pits taken out. Ava could do that.
Mhm.
I had Molly do that. With the pits taken out, and you cover a pound of dates in about a cup of water for about an hour, and then you blend it, and then you have date paste,
Oh, okay.
and it's so yummy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's really delicious.
Good.
All right, next we're moving on to our brownies, which are super easy. Very easy. You just need 2 bowls. And before we get started, right, I'm going to show you what to do. You want to get yourself an 8x8 pan like this. I probably should have put the bowls to the side first. Would you mind rinsing this out? And this? And that? That needs to just be dried. Thank you. So, since we do no added oils, before I bring that out, we also don't spray our pan with oil. Like, no oil. So you don't want it to stick. And we all have one of these pans sitting around. I take a piece of parchment, and like I'm making like a, you know, the corner, you fold it, the corners like this. Like you were gonna be making one of those boats, you know, paper boats. Okay. And then, hopefully somewhere in here are my scissors. Do you see them anywhere? Anybody see scissors? They were here. I don't know. Okay. I'm gonna use a knife. And hopefully that works. Okay. So you want to cut it so that it makes your square. Right? And then, without cutting your hands, you go in and you do it with scissors, not the way I'm doing it. You cut in a little bit. And then here. So that you have something that looks like this with the ends cut a little bit. And then you take your pan and you push it in, and because you cut those corners, they fold over on each other, okay? Nice and easy so you don't have to worry about it burning you. Okay, so that part's, with scissors it would be a lot easier, but you got the gist of it. All right, so now we'll do the wet ingredients first. 2/3 cup maple syrup. I don't think I brought, there's a difference between wet and dry measuring cups. I only have dry measuring cups, but who really cares right now? Oh, you got scissors, sorry, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna pour in 2/3 cup of this.
What is the reason reasoning that you don't use oil?
So oil's processed. Maple syrup is just cooked down sap, but with oil, you're actually extracting it from its whole food counterpart. So you take the fiber and the nutrients out of it. So we'll eat olives, we'll eat avocados, we'll eat nuts, but we won't eat oil. And it's an interesting thing you should try at home. If you cook like these cashews, right? If I wash out something that had ground up cashews in it, it rinses clean. But if I use a tablespoon of oil in something, I have to use soap to scrub it. So I always think of that as my insides. I don't have the capacity to clean the oil on the insides. Is that, I mean, it's a very simplistic way of looking, but if you were to rinse out something that you cooked, even if you had avocado, it'll rinse clean without soap. But when you have avocado oil in it, isolated from its counterpart, you then need soap to get it clean. I don't know why that is, but I always think of that as my insides. And believe it or not, like we wind up, like I was, for a while I wasn't able to use my kitchen. It probably was like 4 months. And I was relying heavily on ordered food. And I thought one day I was having a heart attack because I wound up having such a gallbladder attack because I wasn't used to the oils. It was so bad. And during that 4 months, I probably gained 20 pounds. I did. It was great. Yeah. And then COVID hit, so I don't know what went on after that. But anyway, 20 pounds initially, just for adding oil back in. And now we try, and we don't cook with it, we don't bake with it, we saute in water, we use parchment. I do use Silpat baking things or making cookies, but we do it all without oil. Yeah, but try it just for an experiment. Try it where you have make a guacamole, and then make a salad dressing, or even with a little bit of oil in it, and look at the bowls and rinse them, and you're gonna see.
Applesauce sometimes instead of oil, like in a cake mix.
Yes, so that's what we're gonna be using in this is applesauce. Yeah, applesauce keeps the moisture in there, which is what you want the oil to do, and it's a whole food. Absolutely, we've got it right here. That's, yeah, perfect. So we're gonna put in a half a cup of that. Oh, this is the half cup, right? Okay. So this is gonna be sticky. We'll put it on that parchment. Because I don't bake all that often, I buy the pouches of applesauce because I don't want it to go bad. I need it for baking when I need to bake, but I don't want to open a jar and then have it go bad. So I buy it in the pouches or in the little snack containers for the kids, and that's what I use.
So what's the equivalent measurement of a pouch if you use that?
So a pouch was almost a half a cup, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Those little snack cups was almost a half a cup, but it wasn't quite. So it's just you need to open a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got that, and now we're gonna put in nut butter. I'm using almond butter in this. You can use peanut butter, but the peanut butter gives it more of a, then we get a peanut taste to it. Let me put in about 2 tablespoons, which is about, that's like 1.5. There you go. About 2 tablespoons. And then we're gonna we're counting flaxseed in this as like one of the wet ingredients. I'm gonna put it in here. What else goes in? Vanilla extract. Right in front of me. Okay. And about a tablespoon of that. Okay. And then I would use my whisk, but I'm not gonna use my whisk yet because I need it for my dry ingredients. I'm sticking that there. All right, so next bowl, dry ingredients. Half a cup whole wheat pastry flour. If you've never used whole wheat pastry flour, but you want to use whole wheat flour, don't use anything else. Whole wheat pastry flour has that soft texture of white flour. So if you're trying to switch over to a whole food plant-based, and you've tried with making your pancakes out of whole wheat flour, they're disgusting. Sorry, they just are. They taste gritty and grimy. But if you go with whole wheat pastry flour as your base, you would never know. So that goes in. You can put chopped nuts in if you want. I'm not gonna put it in this one. And then 1/3 of a cup of cocoa powder. And I'm using Hershey's, sorry. Okay, third of a cup of cocoa powder. And then rest gets nice and easy. Where's my quarter? Oh my gosh, guess what?
You found it.
My scissors. I picked them. And then we do a quarter teaspoon baking powder, a quarter teaspoon baking soda, and a quarter teaspoon salt. I like these little containers I bought because I can do this and wipe it off. Which it doesn't look like much. This is a very thin batter, but it's very flavorful. Okay. This is why I didn't use my whisk the first time, because I want to whisk the dry ingredients together. And now I'm going to whisk my wet ingredients together until that nut butter is broken up. So how long were you vegetarian for? Or vegan for?
Honestly, I call it the golden age of vegetarian. Do you remember like when you would buy like those fake hot dogs? I called them at like in Red Bank.
I don't know.
Did you ever go to Down to Earth?
I do remember Down to Earth.
That was like the age, like I guess the I guess it's the early 90s, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
late
Down to
80s,
Earth.
early 90s. And the food, they didn't have a lot of answers. They didn't have a lot of answers. That's the best way to say it. For vegan. I mean, people knew of it, but it wasn't. There wasn't this.
There was no forum and talk. So when I got into it, because of the reason I got into it, I had a lot of questions. And I used to watch this TV show called Christina Cooks, if you're familiar with this on PBS. And Christina Perillo cured herself of leukemia. And she followed a macrobiotic diet, which was where my heart was. Initially, I started out macrobiotic. So I was still living at home. I was 21 years old, back from college. I'm pressure cooking my grains and pressure cooking, ready for this, in a clay pot. So I had my clay pot inside my pressure cooker with this and I would sort my grains, and I was crazy. It was before kids. Now I'm lucky I get food out on the table. But
crazier.
no, I'm crazier. Yeah, whew, you have no idea. It's nuts.
Did you have on Mousse at the time, or?
I did not. No, because remember you had to put in a tape back then and hit rewind and miss your song, and then you're like. And if you wanted to record something off the radio, you had to sit and wait for it and hit record and play at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. Gosh, that was a long time ago. I always say to people, that's when we thought eating well was eating snack wells, because that had no fat. Yeah, when I first started this too, miso soup, that's how I learned about Dean's. I was down here, put the wet in with the dry, and now we're stirring it. That's how I learned about Dean's. My one friend whose husband was on a macrobiotic path talked to me about miso soup. And I said, well, I gotta make this miracle soup. I wanna try it. It has all these digestive enzymes. So I went to this East meets West Asian market on a corner in Neptune City. And they only had dried miso soup, so I tried that. My friend's like, no, you gotta find this is before Whole Foods too, so we used to call it Fresh, there was a Fresh Fields up in North Jersey. She's like, you gotta find a Fresh Fields, like a natural food store. I'm like, a natural food store? I'm like, all right. And Dean's had just opened. So, I guess Dean's had just opened. No, maybe Dean's, but Dean's was the first place I ever found miso soup to try, because I had already given up all my other stuff, but I hadn't tried making homemade miso. And then I made it, I had to have miso twice a day, I had to have pickled vegetables, homemade pickled vegetables, my sea vegetables. It was crazy. Okay. But, to me, as I got older, it wasn't practical. I couldn't do these things. I was mail ordering my grains from, I think it was Goldmine was the name of the company, and you're page 23, the insert thing before you could click send. So it was difficult back then. Now it's so much easier. That's why when people say they can't do it now, I'm like, stop yourself. Like, I can't even listen to that. What do you mean you can't do it now? You could YouTube anything. There was no YouTube. You know, I remember I used to go to, what was it? Veggie Works. When Veggie Works, remember Veggie Works?
I do.
Yes, so Veggie Works, and they came out with a cookbook, and it was like the Bible. We poured through that cookbook. I went through that cookbook so many times that the binding broke. So then I took it and I put it in like sleeves in a big giant binder that now my cabinet wouldn't close because it was sticking out, but I'm like, it's okay. Now I have it in a digital format that I scanned every page of. It was the best.
I remember I took my sister out to a high-end vegetarian restaurant, and we sat down, and I'll never forget what she said to the waitress after trying some of the food. It wasn't that good. She said, "I want McDonald's." Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, go figure.
Because, well, that's because McDonald's too, we had all grown up on McDonald's.
Right.
McDonald's adds salt, it adds fat, it adds sugar. Even their fries are sprayed with beef fat, right? So that sucks us in. The flavor sucks us in. And we're so used to those flavors. And now we're so used to the convenience. So people are always looking for things that set off pleasure receptors. Anything that's sweet, salty, or fat sets off pleasure receptors because the ancestral beings that we are used to want to come back to, to sustain ourselves. Ooh, I think you're on low battery here. So to sustain ourselves, we wanted something fatty, we wanted something salty because that had minerals, we wanted something sweet because it was, it was like the fruit and veggies. So there were all these different things that we could try, right? And they always brought us back to it. But now, add to it convenience. We have a desire to conserve energy. It's just in our nature. So the food industry knows that, and they pack everything in a package with sweet, salty fat that sets off pleasure receptors, and they make it nice and easy so we conserve energy. And that's why people want McDonald's. And it's cheap. It's cheaper to get a meal at McDonald's than it is to go and buy food to feed your whole family. All right, so we're pouring this in. Look, no oil. We're just pouring it right in. And again, whoops, stir that up a bit. It's a very small amount of batter, but it coats the bottom. And it coats your knife that you drip it on. And there you go. You bake it at 350 for 30 minutes, and then you take it out. You let it cool for another 30 minutes to an hour.
This is where you say, ooh.
Oh my God, yes.
Right? Now, we could just leave it at that, but what we're going to do is add 1 steamed white sweet potato to the food processor again. We're going to put in a little more tahini. We'll add a tablespoon maybe. We are going to put in vanilla. Again, these are just recurring things here. And maple syrup, about a 1/4 cup. This is not on your recipe, but it's nice and easy to make. And you find your lid. And this goes around and around until it's smooth. I'm going to add a little plant milk to it. You don't have to, but I think it gives it a little richness. Scrape down the sides again. See, it's starting to look like frosting. And again, these are adapted from Forks Over Knives recipe. They're very easily accessible. Anybody can use them. And this goes on like that. So, let me really quickly grab another paper towel so that I can do this for you. And I'm going to give you all brownies. This is my favorite knife.
makes the cuts look easy.
Oh, yeah, it's like almost one cut and the whole thing's done. Okay. So, you take this, and if you're getting crazy, like I do, you put it in a piping bag, right? You put one on this. You take your piping bag. This you do not need to have in your house. I just happen to have a lot of piping bags in my house. And then you squeeze a little on. Put some almonds. And that too, you could put a raspberry on. And those are your desserts that will make you feel happy and healthy and elevate your mood, and it won't weigh you down. So, you all get to try some.
They look amazing.
All right,
Let's put it on the plate.
let's put them on the plate. So,
It says it right on the other side.
okay. Let's see, what are we serving this with? I think we're good, yeah.
Yeah.